Welcome everyone to the Jack and John Show. Welcome, Steve Young, everyone. How are you, Steve? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm enjoying the late sunny weather.
No, it's been mad. It's been
Yeah,
absolutely crazy.
very bizarre.
It-
Took the
I mean,
took the dog for a walk today, and it was like a summer's day, and yet the whole of summer
it
it
was a washout, wasn't it? I mean,
just. I mean, apart from the Isle of Wight Festival and the Black Deer Festival, I think every single outdoor gig I did this summer was nearly a washout.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I had 12 festivals this summer. So yeah,
Really,
that's not good odds.
it's not, isn't it? I suppose that's what we get now. I suppose heading into the weird climate change world we're going to be living in. I suppose.
Well, yeah.
Got to expect these sort of conditions probably moving forward. How have you been though, man? You been well?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I've had a very busy summer. Um, Kind of winding down now. I mean, I've got a feeling this summer might even have been a sort of a record breaking summer for the sort of number of gigs I had.
Right.
All kinds of different gigs as well. I was sort of doing festivals with the band where I got to play a lot of my own stuff.
Mm,
And then all the usual bread and butter gigs, the
yeah.
garden parties and the weddings and all the stuff I do to pay the bills. And
Have you got a preference, mate, at this point in the game? Is in terms of like the gigs you play, is it like because you've experienced the whole spectrum of them, haven't you, at this point?
well, I do like the gigs that pay the bills. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, at the end of the day, I can earn for me to earn the same teaching as I do in 2 hours of gigs, I'd have to teach for an entire day.
Wow.
Where,
Right.
in fact, um, 2 days, if you look at weddings, like the amount I earn for playing a wedding is the equivalent of 2 whole days of teaching.
Oh, well, it's a
So,
no-brainer then, isn't it?
so I'm always going to enjoy those sort of gigs. But having said that, I do really enjoy getting up on a stage with 5, 6 piece band with
Mm,
the Les Paul, the Les Paul and a big amp, and
yeah.
just you know, sorry, I just put my phone on silent. Les Paul and the big amp, and doing a proper gig, on a nice
Yeah.
big stage. I mean, the good thing about being you know, sort of playing local festivals and stuff, I've been here long enough now that I've kind of established myself. So when I do local festivals, I get to play on the big stages and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas when I go
As you
to
should.
whereas when I go to like other festivals that are further away, like the Isle of Wight festival, but I'm back to the small stages. But to be honest, that was a brilliant day. I know you weren't there, were you? You didn't make the Isle of
No,
Wight
no,
festival.
I think I might have been
No.
like working or I tend to have a
Yeah.
lot of family come down that just tolerates to the same time of
Yeah,
festival
no, it was a
season.
brilliant.
Bear
It
in
was a
mind.
brilliant day. It was a brilliant day, and there was a lot of old faces in the audience. People that I went to school with, and
Right.
just it was for me. It was kind of full circle because obviously I left the Isle of Wight in '96, went up to
Mm,
London, and did my best to sort of follow my dreams. And I didn't quite become the next John Bon Jovi, but I still did manage to make a career out of music. Well, still am making a career out of music.
yeah.
So obviously, I'm very grateful for that. So it was nice to come back to the Isle of Wight some 27 years later as
Mm,
as a songwriter, as a performer, doing my own stuff under my own name, which you know, I guess it's just a bucket list thing, I suppose. But it was
absolutely. Yeah.
it was very important to me, and I really enjoyed it, and I really sort of relished every moment of it. You know,
Yeah.
you know.
That's do you find though, like the sort of the older you've got and the sort of more experience you've got, that at this stage in the game, you'd probably say you appreciate those moments than what you in '96 would have done.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so when I was younger, it was kind of more expected. So like the first big gig we did on the Isle of Wight was '95 when Alex Dyke sort of put on that thing at Smallbrook Stadium, and it was like PGA and Duncan and Peter Andre and um, some other kind of smash hits type bands that were sort of big at the time, and it was 3,000 people at Smallbrook Stadium, and for us at the time as sort of 19, 20 year olds,
Yeah,
Although we loved it, or I loved it, I think my attitude was kind of like, well, we we should be doing this. Not I hope we can do it, or let's I mean, I remember I must have phoned Alex Dyke up at the radio station like every day
yeah,
until he got so mad with me that he finally agreed to put us on the bill, you
yeah.
know. And
I, I
to be
interviewed I interviewed Alex probably a year, 18 months ago.
right,
Um,
yeah,
interesting
yeah,
guy, interesting guy.
yeah. I mean, he's quite, he was a funny character back then. I mean, I mean, obviously he's doing the Jack Up the 80s now and stuff. He's still in the game. We have chatted when we've bumped into each other
Mm,
before, um but yeah, so back then it was kind of expected. It was like, well, this is part of the journey, this is what we have to do. And when I moved up to London and I got a record deal with Warner's, it was like, yeah, this is what's supposed to happen. And I never sort of, in the moment, even when I sort of much later on, sort of when I was in my late 20s and 30s and I was playing with Darren Hayes, playing at places like the Albert Hall, although I was blown away to play it, I still kind of felt like, yep, this has to happen. This is all part of the journey, you know. And it's weird now because it's only now, like obviously much older, like I'm 51 now. It's only
no, you're not.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So it's only like now, sort of playing the local festivals like where I live, Stevenage in particular, the council put a lot of effort into this festival called Old Town Live. And they have
Mm,
like 80 bands playing. They shut off the high street. Every venue turns into it's a bit
that's
like
awesome.
it's a little bit like Edinburgh Fringe.
Right.
There's two main stages and you know, hundreds and hundreds of bands apply to play from all around the world, and there's like 10,000 people fill the street. And I've played the main stage like every year for the last 4 years because one of my good friends here is he runs it.
Yeah.
And but now I'm really grateful for it. I don't sort of think, well, of course I'm going to be on the main stage, or of course I need to be doing this gig. I'm actually just really grateful that people still think that I've got the goods, I've got the skills.
Do you know what though? That just shows how sort of respected amongst your peers that you are, though. You know
Well,
that
I hope so.
the because at the end of the day, I mean, they say the cream rises to the top, don't they? So I suppose the mere fact that you've got this much experience behind you and you still go in and all that, and
Yeah, I mean, I've worked. I'm not going to lie. I've worked hard at my reputation. I've always wanted to make. I've always maintained a reputation of consistency. So, any agent or promoter that books me will always get the same service. They'll always get punctuality. They'll always get good quality equipment.
mm,
I'll always have new strings on my guitar. I won't have batteries that run out. You know, I won't be drunk or tired or hungover. I'll always put on a show, whether it's me on my own or a three
yeah,
piece or a five piece. I'll always put on a show. And that's just something I've always maintained because, unless at the end of the day, unless you put on a memorable show and you do a good job, then your reputation goes down the pan. And I like that. I like the fact that I've worked really hard to make sure that people know that they're going to get the same level of service. People that have booked me 5 years ago and then booked me, I get say I booked for a wedding 5 years ago, and then I
mm,
get booked for I don't know the fifth anniversary or something. They'll get the same quality of service, if not better. Um,
yeah.
it's the same. It's a consistent service, and if you apply that to any other business, if you think of I don't know, a taxi company
Mm.
or a shop or some other business that you rely on all the time. I don't know, if you say you're a builder and you go to Screwfix all the time, you don't want to walk into Screwfix one day and suddenly everything's changed and they haven't got the stuff you need and things don't work the same way and all the prices are weird. And you have to maintain a level of consistency that make people want to just keep coming back and using you. And that
How,
applies. applies to music as well.
course. Now, with that being said, then, is there a moment or that you look back on, or of a time where you may have met someone in the business that maybe didn't apply themselves in the manner you were speaking of, that you thought, right, from
Oh
quite
yeah.
early on, you went, right, okay, I won't do it like that.
Oh, loads. Oh my God. Yeah. Um, Not so much in the professional world because they've already been filtered out. So it, like when I was doing like TV sessions and stuff like that, I mean, um, everybody knew what they were doing. But uh, yeah, in on a general sort of daily basis or weekly basis, I come across people that just literally don't have those values.
Mm,
And, I guess they can be learned. But the more and more I talk to agents and promoters, I don't know whether it's a post-lockdown thing or just um, it's a another subject which I can address in a minute about what inspires kids to play guitar at the moment. So we'll come
right.
back to that. So for whatever reasons, there's a gap. There's not many musicians left that can go into a situation like a wedding or a private party or whatever and smash out good new songs, all the classic songs, and just keep the party going with a consistency. I've worked with people that, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of the things that might put you off a musician. So I work with musicians who cannot sing a song without looking at an iPad or having a laptop in front of them. So they're always singing, staring at their computer or their iPad. I've worked with musicians that, even though there's people on the dance floor, after every song, they'll stop, have a little drink, have a little look around, maybe have a think, go onto the laptop, type in the next song they're going to sing. And and for me, this is like, oh my God, what are you doing? There's like 100 people standing in front of you, and you've just basically just turn the music off, you know. And it's just little things like that. It's just things that people coming through now, they don't seem to understand that that's important. That kind of thing's important.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously there's plenty of people that do, and you'll see bands that are just absolutely spot on with this kind of stuff.
Mm,
But just simple things like reading the audience, working with a drummer who knows that even if on the original the drums don't come in till the second chorus, if there's
mm,
people on the dance floor, play the drums. That's actually a rule. Whenever a new drummer works with me, the first thing I say to them is, if there's people on the dance floor, play. I don't care what's on the track, just play.
yeah. Now, do you think, when you referencing there maybe like some of the younger kids that are coming up now with the differences that you were referencing, do you think that with the aid of modern technology, that has then made these youngsters coming up more heavily reliant, would you say, on the technology?
Yeah, well, I just think I'm just trying to
So,
think of the people I know. I'm just thinking like I know a lot of sort of young performers and singers who aren't necessarily inspired by live music themselves. Like they weren't going to gigs. I mean,
mm,
when I was 16, 17, I was going to gigs every weekend. Before I even picked a guitar up, I was going to gigs every weekend. Like, so live music was part of my culture. And there's a lot of kind of musicians now who it's not part of their culture. They do it, they want to do it, and they do it for a job or whatever. Or they try and do it for a job, but it's not actually, they haven't come from a foundation of live music. So it's not even that they're lazy or refusing to do it. I just don't think they know they're even supposed to.
yeah, that's a
No.
good point.
And and also like I can see it from their point of view as well. Imagine you're like 22, you've been playing the guitar, you're going out and doing a gig, and someone asks you for Brown Eyed Girl, which even now, what, in 2023, even Brown Eyed Girl will get everybody on the dance floor. And it seems ridiculous when you think about it. It's like a 40, 50-year-old song.
Yeah.
for a 22-year-old to even know that song exists, you know,
Mm.
it's a big ask. And I work with a lot of young people. So some of my students, when they kind of grow up, you know, I mean, like this summer, for example, my bass player Daisy, she's 21. She was a student of mine since she was 15. And my drummer Arthur, who is now 18, was 11 when I first met him, when I first started
Wow.
teaching. So I get the good ones. I mean, they're both fantastic musicians. I get them up on stage any chance I can. But when I send the set list out, you know, I'll be like, I don't know, something I can't think of a song now, something really obvious. And I'll be like, who's that by?
Right.
I'll be like, oh, okay, I need to tell you who it's by.
Yeah, and is it one of the moments where it's like it sort of ages you? You're like, oh no,
You know, and
that was an absolute tune when I was your age, or
I remember it's so funny. I remember last year I was backstage. It was Old Town Live. We were about to go on the main stage. It was a sunny day. There was thousands of people the other side of the stage waiting for us. And the drummer was quite nervous because he was only 17 at the time. And it was probably one of the biggest gigs he'd ever done to date.
yeah,
And I remember standing backstage with him, and I just remember saying, like, giving him a pep talk. And I'm going, look, listen, mate, just make sure you can hear what you need to hear. Like, you need to have my vocals in the monitors because I'm going to be saying things like I might say, start the drums. You know, you need to have your kick and your hi hat in the monitors
mm,
because that's important for you to be able to hear that. Don't have anything in the monitors that you don't need to play the song. You don't need to hear the tambourine. You don't necessarily need to hear the violin. You probably don't even need to hear the keyboards. What you need is what you need to get through the song. And I had this big conversation with him, and he looked at me and he was like, Steve, what are monitors?
oh no,
I was like, oh my God. I was like, right,
yeah.
I need to dial this back a bit. Right. Monitors are monitors are the big speakers on the stage that are pointing you rather than the audience that let you hear what you need to hear. You know, and it's like, why would a 17-year-old who's come straight out of school know what a monitor is? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. I mean, it's amazing when you think about it now because, like, obviously, for the younger generation, their way of learning, and like you say, is going to be completely different than the way you would have learned coming up. About
well, yeah,
all facets, whether it's actually being in a band and knowing bits about the cues and the monitors, like you say, or whether it's even just about like life stuff about how to be around certain individuals that as you're coming up and things like
yeah.
that.
I
I
mean,
mean,
the biggest difference I notice on stage with sort of older experienced musicians and the younger ones is the older ones just seem to get the cues on stage. Like when I turn around, I like some I say older. I mean, I'm talking like, you know, not teenagers or whatever, but I can
yeah.
turn around and look at an older drummer in the middle of a song and they will instinctively know that I want something. And it might be, let's do that again, or let's drop it down,
Mm,
or they just instinctively know that something is going to change. And I am terrible on stage. I do things very, very spontaneously. Like I might drop a song down, I might repeat a chorus, I might, you know, I mean, I might. I did a gig last week. I just started throwing in other songs into a song.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
because I was just because I just felt like doing it, and and they can follow it. Whereas sort of the younger musicians that just haven't had that experience, even though they're capable of playing the songs. If
yeah.
I start, if we're doing song A, whatever it is, and I
Mm,
just suddenly decide, oh, I know a song that's in the same key as that, and I start doing a medley,
yeah.
they're just like no clue what's going on, no
Uh,
clue.
I
And
mean,
I guess everyone needs to learn that. Of course, you know that's why I get them on stage because just to go full circle with that whole drummer monitor story, this year he had his own set of in-ear monitors, and you know,
right,
so he knew exactly what he was doing, and he had
yeah,
exactly what he needed,
it
and
was
you
back
know,
then.
so he learned a huge lesson that day, and that's what it's all about, and that's why I try and give my students the opportunity to play these gigs with me, you know.
Yeah. I'm just thinking off the back of that. When you were sort of coming up and as you were sort of getting more success and uh sort of in sort of your early 20s and whatnot. Was there somebody who is sort of took the role that you're taking with kids
No,
now in terms of guidance? Don't do
no,
this, do that, look out for this, don't look out for that, things like that.
no, there wasn't. There was for a couple of years, right at the very, very beginning when I was 19 and I had my first band on the Isle of Wight. There was a guy called Mike who was probably in his 40s or 50s. He's not around anymore, Mike Goodfield. But and I actually taught his son when he was 7. But he's on the Isle of Wight still doing stuff. He's got quite a good band actually on the island. I can't remember what they're called though, sorry. But his name's Sean Goodfield. Um, but apart from that first sort of year or so with Mike, like particularly when I got to London, I was literally just on my own. And you know, I learned everything the hard way. I learned everything by making mistakes, basically getting
Yeah.
told off, doing and making mistakes on stage, getting told off, making mistakes in the studio, getting told off,
Mm.
doing gigs, wondering why people, observe. I've always watched the audience. Why did the audience all turn around on that one? Why does everyone go to the bar during this song? Why did everyone run to the front for this one, but then go and sit down on the next one, which I think is a better song?
Yeah.
What's the what's the mechanics of this? What's the science of this? And I've just built this up. And unfortunately, I never did have a mentor. And I think this is why I do it, because I think, not sort of blowing smoke up my own ass, but I think that if I had someone like me when I was sort of 25, 26, I think
Mm.
my career would have been very, very different. But when you get to London, particularly, it's such a competitive environment.
Yeah, and everyone's
Um,
trying to get the same spots and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and particularly basically, I moved to London and was immediately signed to Warner's in a band. So no one wants to help you when you've got to deal with a major label because they all hate your guts already. You know,
Do
you
you
know.
think though that the sort of the aftercare and just general sort of looking after the youngsters once they get signed? 'Cause some of them, like for example, you look at Justin Bieber got signed when he was like 14, 15, whatever, and you know some of these people don't have the guidance, do they? Like you were saying. Like, do you think
No,
the labels now uh, they're cotton onto that and they're being a little bit more careful and wary how they handle and
I
how
think.
quickly
Well,
they
I
try
think
and
they.
get these prospects up?
I think they must be because okay, let's do a direct comparison. I mean, so my band that signed to Warner's, when we went to record our first album, we recorded it at Great Linford Manor, and it's a residential studio, so you basically sleep there.
Right.
And literally, the manager of the band came up and gave us a massive white bag of cocaine, gave it to the singer, and said,
Wow.
"It's like, it was a big bag of cocaine," and
Yeah.
said, "Finish the album." And I didn't, green boy from the Isle of Wight. I didn't touch any drugs. I would drugs terrified me. Um,
Probably wise.
my dad was an alcoholic, and even drunk people made me feel uncomfortable. Um, Being around drugs was really uncomfortable for me because I was very sheltered from that on the Isle of Wight back then.
Mm.
So I didn't partake, but that was actually it was horrendous because they were literally running on 18, 20 hour a day stints in the studio. Whereas I was,
Presumably that's the only thing that was fueling them, really, just
yeah.
keeping them wired.
Whereas I still wanted my 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours a night sleep, and it caused a lot of yeah, it caused a lot of problems. Me being asleep
Mm.
caused a lot of arguments and a lot of
Yeah.
tension, and I actually, you know, I actually missed out on recording some of the songs
Mm.
because they couldn't be bothered to come and wake me up, you know.
Right.
And we're not talking about me being in bed all day. I was just trying to get my normal sleep. But
Yeah.
they were on this kind of this night owl cocaine thing where they would start work probably sort of after lunch, like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and they would go through until 6 in the morning. 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning even. And I just hadn't experienced anything like that in my life. I went from being working in an electronics factory in Ryde for 4 years
yeah,
to going up to London, living in Brixton, and being expected to start work in the afternoon and keep working until the sun came up.
yeah, yeah.
And it was just, yeah, I wasn't designed for it.
No, no.
I'm sorry, and I drifted there. So to put that into contrast now, a lot of kids that are signed now are chances are their mum or their dad is their manager or is dealing with the label.
Yeah,
Parents are a lot more savvy now when it comes to it. Kids are a lot more savvy when it comes to it.
yeah,
Kids are also unrealistic. I think a lot of kids think that if their first song doesn't get BNG jumping through rings of fire,
mm,
then they quit and go and get a job in McDonald's.
yeah.
They're part of that instant generation where they want one
Want that
song,
immediate gratification, don't they?
and they want to get massive off that one song. They don't understand that, you could put five, think Nevermind was what Nirvana's fourth album.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you have to, that hasn't changed because just because you can record an album in your bedroom doesn't make you any better. Just because you can have CDs at gigs for
yeah,
a couple £100 cost
yeah.
doesn't mean that your CDs are brilliant. It just means they're cheaper to make. I mean, sorry, go on. You look
And
like
I
you want to.
was just going to say off the back of that, a lot of youngsters now they're getting spotted on the socials, aren't they? Like TikTok,
Yeah, of course
Instagram,
they are. Yeah,
Facebook,
of course, of
and
course.
that's the sort of modern way of doing it. Now, obviously, if you've got a whole generation that essentially rely on all of those things um, to put their music out or whatever it may be that they're wanting to do. Do you think that has made it um, to more tricky in some respects for these kids to realize once they get there, and once they get the break, right, actually, this is when as you say, this is when the hard work begins. Because
Well,
on TikTok, they get that immediacy, don't they? Like,
yeah,
how
but it
many
depends.
views?
It depends though, because if they stay in that dimension, then it doesn't matter because if you've got a good song and you've got 100,000 followers on TikTok, you'll
Yeah,
probably get a label pick you up, but doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go out and do an acoustic gig in Camden
mm,
because yeah, of course they'd fall flat on their face. They they maintain that what's the word I'm looking for, demographic. So
right.
you do go into a studio paid for by the label and you do record the song with a shit hot producer, but you then it comes out on TikTok.
Yeah,
So, and if you do go and do a live gig, you're probably going to sing or mime to your track.
yeah,
You're not
yeah,
likely, you're not going to suddenly go, right, let's book a rehearsal studio for 12 hours, get a band together and work this through. Some might. I mean, there are, there's oh, my brain's a bit foggy today, but there is an artist I saw lately that pretty much um did it through TikTok, but actually has a band and
yeah.
I'm sure
I, I,
thanks.
I find my other half, she um started playing this new young male vocalist the other day that was made it big online. The guy called Steven Sanchez, and I was like, "Whoa, this guy is unbelievable!"
Yeah.
He's. I was like, he was 21, and then literally 2, 3 months later, um, he's at Glastonbury getting supporting Ellen on the main stage.
Oh
And
yeah. But you shouldn't be surprised by that. You shouldn't be surprised
oh,
by, I mean, you think Slash was 19 when he recorded Appetite for Destruction. Eric Clapton was
yeah,
17, 18 when he was in the Yardbirds. Um, nothing's changed in that way. The keyboard player for Bon Jovi was like 15 when they had their first massive hit. You know, you two were 17 when they were touring America for the first time. So the it's no surprise that someone that young is that fantastic. It's just that, you know, can if they can cross over, if they can cross over from being a TikTok star to actually delivering on stage, then yeah, they got the world at their fingertips. But
Yeah,
if they can never get out, if they can never get beyond the studio or beyond their phone, then yeah, they're probably going to struggle, you know. And I don't know, there's something about, you know, maybe again we're just being old dinosaurs, but there's something about doing your 10,000 hours of singing or playing or gigging and then get your break. And then when you get your break, you know exactly what to do with it, you
yeah,
know. But also along with that, you've got singer songwriters that are kind of um supported by their parents from like the age of 10 or 11. So by the time they're 17, they already have done their 10,000 hours. I mean, I remember I got my first guitar when I was 17. It made so much noise. My dad would stop me from playing it. I'd be in my bedroom like 18 years old, rocking away to Appetite for Destruction or Pink Floyd. And my dad
yeah.
would come in and take the cable away from me so I couldn't plug it in. I used to plug my guitar into the back of a record player. My brother-in-law made me this special lead that was basically a guitar jack to two phono RCA phonos. And I'd plug it in the back of my record player because it was the only thing
Right,
that had
yeah,
any speakers. And I'm sure it was a horrendous noise, especially when I got my first distortion pedal. Um, but yeah, you know, I used to have huge battles with my dad just to be able to practice my guitar. Whereas now you've got parents that are kind of openly supporting 11, 12-year olds, taking them to open mics, taking them to live music. And so for me, I was probably well into my 20s before I'd got anywhere near my 10,000 hours. Whereas you got kids coming through 15, 16, it's all they've done, you know.
yeah,
The same with the golfers, you know, when you get someone gets their kid on a golf course at age 5 or a tennis, they enroll them in a tennis
yeah.
club
And they just
age
become,
5.
yeah,
You know, because that's what they want. They want them to have all the experience and while they're still young enough to do it, you know.
of course, yeah. What, tell you something I'd like your thoughts on, Steve. I recently read how Universal and Deezer, one of the other streaming services, have teamed up now. What is to obviously give more sort of creative rights and royalties to the artists. What's your thoughts on that? Is that surely that can only be a good thing, right?
Um, I don't know. I mean,
Or do you
all of
think it's just not
all of
what it's
those
cracked
all
up to be?
I don't think any of those streaming companies have really got the artists' rights at
Mm,
the forefront of their minds. And major labels, you know, their businesses, the more money they can, you know, the more money they can get off the back of an artist, the better. I don't
yeah,
think I don't think new artists in particular, but I don't think artists have ever really been in a position to benefit from any giant company forming together with another giant company.
yeah,
You know, it's because the thing is, like, you know, I upload my music, it goes to Deezer, it goes to Amazon, it goes to Spotify. I mean, it goes to 70, 80, 90 different streaming services around the world. I've got
mm,
absolutely no say in anything. I've got no say in any of the percentages I get. Um, I have to do it because if your music's not out on Spotify or the other companies, you know, you're never you're never gonna you're never gonna get anywhere.
yeah,
Um, but as an artist, as a person that's written the song, gone into the studio, paid the engineer, paid for someone to mix it. I've
mm,
literally just sent a song off to Abbey Road today to get it mastered. Um, you know, I've put in all that effort and time and money.
yeah,
And when I upload that song to Spotify in a few weeks' time, I won't have any say in it whatsoever.
mm,
I literally, but I've got no choice. I'm not going to sell. No one's going to buy it. No one's going to buy
mm,
the CD. I mean, even when people do buy CDs, they've got nothing to play it on. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
So,
know,
so
go on, no, go on.
does that mean that we've got some good new songs to look forward to listen to of yours soon?
But I don't know. Well, if you think they're good, then great. But yeah, there is some new songs coming out. Yeah, I've
Have
recorded
you
three new. I've recorded three new songs.
you got a favorite out of those three?
Um, well, they're three very different songs. One is a kind of a very sort of cheeky 3.5 minute pop bluesy rock song.
Yeah.
Um, one of them's a bit more of a indulgent kind of blues riffy song. And one of them's a very kind of folky, introspective, I'd say almost not almost melancholy. All very different. The cheeky cheesy song, which is the one I sent off today. It's called "Looks Like You." Um, yeah, it goes down really well live. Actually, I'm going to play you a
Yes.
little. I'm going to play you a little snippet of it.
All right.
Because hopefully it will come down on your recording. So where are we? Here we go. I'm just going to play you like a little bit of the chorus.
Okay.
All right. Did you hear that?
A little bit,
All right.
a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
I'm about to time out at this end, unfortunately. But is there anything else you want to plug?
Uh,
What's going on, mate? What's happening in your world?
no, it's all good. Just look out for the single when it comes out. Looks like you. And I'm gonna try and see if I can twist the Isle of Wight Festival to let me come back and play again next year.
Well,
um,
can't see why they would say no. Can you?
nah, who knows? Who knows, mate? But yeah, no, all
Well,
good. Take it easy.
well. Thank you for joining me today. It's
Yeah, you're
been a
welcome.
pleasure. How finally, I should have asked this earlier. How did you find your lockdown experience? Because I didn't speak to you
Uh,
for a few years
So,
now, have I?
so very quickly, I needed lockdown. I was just before lockdown. I was in a lot of pain in my shoulder, my elbow, and my
Right.
wrist. So I was really struggling physically. I'd had MRIs, I'd had physio treatment. Nothing was fixing this pain I was in, and I literally just needed to stop playing. And so actually, lockdown from that sense did me the world of good. Um, I was doing a lot of online teaching, so and obviously I picked up quite a lot of fans around the world doing online streaming, which was an eye opener, and I kind of keep meaning to get back to it, but it's hard now. Um, it wasn't that bad, to be
Good.
honest.
Well,
Weird,
well, that
weird, and I
it was,
definitely
wasn't it?
yeah, but it wasn't. It definitely wasn't anywhere near as bad as many people's, So
Well, I'm pleased you managed to get your shoulder fixed.
yeah, it's fine
Thank you
now.
for joining. Thank
It's
you for
just
joining me
it's
today.
the rest of me. All right, okay, take it easy.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.